Great. You have a doorbell camera. Now you have a front row seat to your house getting robbed.
They're breaking into my house!
Ooh, there goes the TV. I'm sure it'll turn up at the pawn shop.
No, not the TV!
Just because you can see them, that doesn't mean you can stop them.
With Slogans, you get 24-hour monitoring, a free home security system, and professional installation.
Plus, free doorbell camera, one that'll actually work for you.
Get out of my house!
Get out of the house! Call 1-800-ALARM-ME.
All right, AEW Dynamite off the air. So, of course, the Square Circle Digest is on the air here on the Big O Radio Show YouTube channel here at the OK Coin Studios in Miami Gardens. Don't forget you can be in the chat or hit us up on email at bigoradioshow@yahoo.com. AEW Dynamite tonight. It's interesting when you sit there and you watch what goes on with Boss B. Good evening. When you sit and you watch AEW, it's just the feel is different. The energy from the crowd is different than a WWE crowd. And I think that's, to me, what makes it, I think, from watching it as a fan, more entertaining than what you see on Raw, because a lot of time on Raw, it's whether you want to say it's piped in sound or everything there, but with AEW, you feel it. Tonight, the main event just went off the air as FTR against the Young Bucks. You had a dueling chance with Adam Page and Christian when the Hardys were taking on Butcher and the Blade. The crowd was into it from the beginning of the night to the end of the night. And I think it has that, it makes the feel of the program. And I get it. It's 2 hours. With Raw, you're looking at 3 hours, but they also do tapings beforehand and things like that. So the crowd, to me, is WWE has trained their crowds to kind of react. Whereas AEW is just, let's see what we get out of this. And let's see what kind of magic we can create with the crowd. And you can tell to me, and this is Sean Stanley speaking here, is that it just feels so different when you watch those. Yeah. All right. Well, let her worry about that. But the feel is just so different from an AEW to a WWE event. And I think you get that feel, though, too, when like WrestleMania, I think, had a little bit of that feel with the crowd kind of going, back and forth and some of the cheering and the different, chants through the show. But when you go to a regular, and the Raw after WrestleMania always is that way. But for the most part, the AEW crowd just, and they don't try to hijack the show. I don't want to make it seem like they try to hijack the show, because I've seen that done on WrestleManias, Raws after WrestleMania. Some of the times, the crowd tries to hijack the show and everything there. Steve Chapman, what's up, buddy? Didn't see the show. Don't have much of that. All right, my man, no problem. You missed a pretty damn good show, actually. It started off with the Adam Cole and Christian Cage match. And again, I know Christian can still go, and it's not that. And I'm going to get into another thing that I was watching some of the things and looking at Twitter as it was going on with the Hardys, and I'm gonna dive into that a little bit here in a minute. But Christian definitely can still go, and with Adam Cole, it was perfect for Adam Cole to get a victory over Christian Cage in that match to set up for Hangman Adam Page in next week on Rampage. I appreciate that. Hit the like button. Everyone tunes in tonight. Please do the same if you're listening on the podcast. Please, please, please hit that like button. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. And, of course, you get the Big O show as well as the Squared Circle Digest. Sebastian, what's up, my man? Love the shows, learning little by little about the sport. Keep it up, bro. Love to see you talking WWE, man. I appreciate that, Sebastian. Tony Zagales, awesome main event. Sean, AEW keeps putting quality shows week to week. That main event was pay-per-view worthy. It was. And what's funny is that match probably was a little bit less than what I thought the Briscoes and FTR were. I mean, I know that match delivered too right there. Don't get me wrong, but I was really hoping to see the Briscoes on AEW tonight after what happened on the ROH Supercard of Honor. I was hoping to see them boys come out and maybe get some retribution on the Young Bucks, but that main event was perfect. I mean, honestly, that it was a great night there in Boston. The Boston crowd was ready to go. Sean Spears and Sean Dean had a pretty good match. Again, all those matches are just setting up for Wardlow and everything there. But man, I thought the crowd was really in a fever pitch. I mean, I don't know what they saw or what they got beforehand, or if they were just ready for it. But man, that crowd was loud from the beginning, from the first time Adam Cole's music hit till the final when it went off the air with FTR actually standing in the middle of the ring with the belts raised. And I thought it was a cool touch too. Again, I know Tony Khan, he owns ROH and all that, but to bring in, the longtime Bobby Cruz, the longtime ring announcer, getting him some TV time there on the AEW show in Boston to announce, to bring him in and announce FTR and the Young Bucks, which was for the ROH title and the AAA titles. And the interesting fact was AAA did give Tony Khan creative freedom for that match. So again, you talk about all these forbidden doors and everything being open. A lot of these people, a lot of them work together, man. They're just putting on great shows. And I think it's good for, the talent to be able to travel and not have to worry about everything. And then also, I understand this. It's never going to happen with WWE. Why? Because WWE talent is contracted to them, and they wrestle 300 times a year. They're not going to go and be on other people's shows. You might get every once in a while a one-off, or they'll trade some talent or something if something happens, like with what happened with ECW when, who was it? Mike Awesome. Mike Awesome had left ECW, went to WCW, and then came back to drop the title at an ECW show. They had him get dressed out anywhere else, and WWE sent Taz down to be his opponent, and then Taz ended up dropping it, I believe, at that point to Tommy Dreamer, and that was the first time Dreamer had held the ECW title because he really never wanted to hold that title. Overall, again, going from what WWE did with WrestleMania, and the Raw after WrestleMania ended up with a 2.15 in the ratings. I don't think you're going to get that with this AEW. I'm hoping they get, the million mark, the 1.0, 1.1. If they do that, that'll be a good mark. Because again, WWE's coming off that momentum from WrestleMania, the 2 nights. And again, AEW just keeps plugging away. But there is one thing that is starting to bother me a little bit. And I know a lot of these guys are, have left WWE and they want to come to AEW, and they want to, because basically, Tony Khan's not really telling anybody, no, don't do that. No, don't do this. Don't do that. But at some point, somebody's going to have to pull the reins in on Jeff Hardy. Last week he's jumping off of window towers. This week he's jumping off the top of a ladder. It's just, to me, I mean, if you're doing all this now, what the hell are you going to do when you get to a pay-per-view match? How much of this can his body take? And that's something where I think, and I know WWE gets hit a lot for this stuff, but I think sometimes they do look out maybe a little bit too much for the talent. And that's why some of the product is watered down, because they try to protect them from themselves. Because if these guys did get creative freedom, you get to see what you saw out there tonight. Last week he jumps off the window sill and through a table through those guys. This week he's getting thrown through tables, and now I think he went through 3 total tables tonight and things like that. But sometimes you've got to control them from themselves, because look, I know Jeff Hardy wants to do all that stuff. That's what he's known for. But at some point, you got to be like, hey, Jeff, tonight, let's just keep it simple. Let's just keep it simple. He's been here for what now? 3 weeks, and every week he's going through a table or putting somebody through a table every week. You can't do that for 52 weeks. It just wouldn't go. And Tony, I agree with you. I would love to see the Hardy's Young Bucks. I would just love to see the match. But again, I don't know that, I don't know what Jeff's body is right now. I honestly don't. I mean, I know he's selling some of those injuries and things like that, but I just don't know where his body is from the poundings that he's done. And again, I mean, look, a lot of his past transgressions were because of all the stuff he's put his body through, man. I mean, when you're doing the traveling up and down the road, you're doing flights, you're doing long car rides, look, man, sometimes you self-medicate. Sometimes you self-medicate too much. Sometimes, it takes over. So hopefully, somebody can maybe just reel him in a little bit. Not saying you just go out there and do nothing, but at the same time, I don't need you going through tables every week. Let's save those for the big spots. Tony also said WWE totally screwed up with ECW. They could have made ECW like what they've done with NXT. Yeah, but here's the one thing, Tony, and I don't know how much wrestling you've watched. ECW was not Vince McMahon's. NXT is Vince McMahon's. And by Vince McMahon's, I mean WWE's. Baby, Vince will not give anything that's not his creation. Hell, look what he did with NWO when they brought it back. They brought it back to destroy it, to bring back Hulk Hogan, which the crowd, don't get me wrong here, the crowd was calling for the yellow and red Hulk Hogan once again. So they read that correctly. But what did he do? He destroyed the NWO to bring back, he destroyed Hollywood to bring back, Hulkamania. Because why? Hulkamania is Vince McMahon's. NWO was WCW. Hollywood Hulk Hogan was WCW. Now, has it gone back and forth? Yes, but ultimately, nothing that is not Vince McMahon's creation will ever win out over something that is created from one of his brands. Steve Chapman, could it be that they know the ratings aren't as good as WWE, so they have to push the envelope each week? Yeah, but I mean, at some point, I mean, you just got to be like, okay, this is where we are, and I mean, does that have to do with ratings? Yeah, I mean, of course you want to do your ratings, but also they have some of the best ratings on TNT. They were beating some of the basketball games this year, which is something that they hadn't done up until this year. So, I mean, does it have to do with the ratings? Of course, everything has to do with ratings because that's how they get their money. But at some point, look, I mean, they do one pay-per-view basically every 4 months. They have 4 pay-per-views a year, or every 3 months. I'm sorry. They do a pay-per-view every 3 months, every quarter. And I don't, man, I mean, if you have to push the envelope that much, then your production, your writing, your creativity, your everything else just isn't there. It's not on par where it needs to be. You need to rethink some of your writing, your storyline, your angles, and try that way first rather than putting your talent's bodies through car crashes every week. If that is what, that's what happened with ECW too, in a way. I mean, by ECW, I mean the original ECW is, once you kind of feed that to the crowd, that's expected every time, and it's one of those things. Now, every time you see, what was last night? It was, or Monday night. I'm sorry. It was Alpha Academy and, the Street Profits, right? They said this is going to be a street fight, and the first thing the crowd does is chant tables. That's become synonymous with hardcore wrestling, tables. As soon as, it's just, but at some point, you have to kind of, program the crowd and train them that, hey, look, you don't have to. That's why I thought the dog collar match with CM Punk and MJF, they told a great story. It didn't. Everybody's like, oh, they didn't do anything. No, they told a great story. What did you expect them to do? They're not going to be in there doing 450 flips and everything else with a chain around their neck. Everybody thought they were going to see all this stuff. They saw brutality. Sometimes that's the story. That's why the build up to that match to me was so important, and they delivered on that. The build up, they built up perfectly, and I thought the match delivered. A lot of the crowd didn't, though. A lot of people really poo-pooed on it because, again, they just thought it was, it's going to be the same wrestling match with a dog collar around their neck. That doesn't happen. Every time it's a hardcore match, you don't have to always have tables out there to just throw people through a table. Set it up, do a spot, make it make sense. You can still tell a damn story around a table. I'll never forget. Oh man, there was a match in WWE. I want to say it was Punk involved in it. It was a while ago. And they had a table sitting in the corner for almost the whole match and worked around it the whole time. They started going through it. It looked like you were going to put somebody through it. They switched it around. They reversed it. They got away from it. Then finally at the very end, they go through that table, and then that was the finish. But they worked around the story, of the match, and they made it make sense. You don't just have to go out there. To me, that's really independent. That's real indie feel. You just go out there with plunder and you hit people with stuff. That's what I did for like 7 years in these hardcore Christmas tree matches. We did it just to hit people with weapons, and people brought their own weapons. They brought keyboards and pots and pans and whatever else, and we used them just to it's an indie feel thing. You should still make your match tell a story. That's how you get people emotionally invested, where they come back next week and the week after and the week after. When you're on the indies, man, you might see that crowd once every other month. With the crowd you're seeing now, you have to get them emotionally invested to where they're tuning in every Wednesday night, every Friday night, every Sunday for a pay-per-view, every Saturday for a pay-per-view. If you don't get that emotional investment from them, then you're doing it wrong. You need to look at it and reevaluate what your formula is. Tony said, "You're right, Sean. I was just the ECW fan in me. Would have loved to have ECW thrive." Oh no, I would have. I don't know if I would love to have the WWE version of ECW thrive. I would have loved to have the original ECW with Paul Heyman, Taz, Sabu, Dreamer, Sandman, Shane Douglas, all those guys. I would have loved to have seen that work out. The Pit Bulls, and you go on and on for some of those guys. I really didn't care for what they brought into WWE. It became too, would they have the Zombie, the first match? The ECW Zombie was the first match that you saw with him and I think it was Sandman. It just became too WWE-ish for me. And so I would have loved to have seen, though, the original ECW thrive. Have you heard whether or not Bobby Lashley was injured when he hit the back of his head on the ring post against? It didn't appear that he was. They did a angle last night. MVP returned and turned on Bobby Lashley and joined Omos. So now MVP and Omos are together, and they beat down Bobby Lashley last night. And I don't know if they're going to bring back the Hurt Business, Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin with Omos, but they did send out a tweet today with them watching they're kind of watching the TV and then the attack, and then they come back and they're kind of eating the popcorn. So we'll see where that goes there. But it didn't appear that there was a legit injury or anything that'll hold him out for a while, because he did take a beating last night and there was no holding back. He took a couple of Omos's finishers and things like that. So I don't think there was anything wrong from that standpoint there. Don't forget Mr. Monday Night RVD. No, I mean, you can't. The ECW would have been, and I'm going back even before Mr. Monday Night RVD, but RVD and Jerry Lynn, those two had some freaking phenomenal matches for the TV title, for the ECW TV title back in the day. And then you had the tag teams, man. You had the Dudleys. You had, and there was a lot. I mean, I'm not a big Public Enemy fan, but them and ECW, it worked. It worked there. You had FBI. There was so much good talent in the old days of ECW. And again, I go back not to the WWE one. I'm talking the original Paul Heyman version of ECW. One of the things I did talk about today on the Wednesday show, but I want to bring it up here and kind of get your thoughts. Cody Rhodes' debut at WrestleMania, his entrance, did it have a different feel than the entrance at AEW? And by that, I mean, as far as it seemed bigger, it felt bigger at WWE WrestleMania than it did at an AEW pay-per-view. Want to get your thoughts on that? Let me know. Throw it in the comments there how you felt. Those were some, RVD and Jerry Lynn were just, dude, I love me some Jerry Lynn, man. You're talking about an underrated performer. I just think, and it's so funny because, again, WCW had him there as Mr. JL, and they didn't know what to do with him. So they let him go, and he went to ECW, and you saw what he did, what he became. I mean, the guy can go, man. He's so good. So good. But going back to Cody with the presentation, the production behind him and everything there, it just felt, I mean, the tattoo definitely looked a lot brighter on WWE TV. I'll tell you that much. Man, he's got to do something with that thing. But just the entrance. Now, the one on Raw I didn't like, where they bring out the little table and they set it there, and his head's already up out of it. But the one at WrestleMania where he comes up from under the stage, and you saw him rise up, and then there's the lighting, the pyro, it just had such a bigger feel than anything I'd seen. And that goes back even to when he did the what was it, All In, when he did the throne. He took the sledgehammer and beat up the throne and all that. And so one of the things I think AEW needs to look at, and again, it's production. I think they need to take a step up in the production. I'm not saying they're going to get to the level. WWE's been doing this for years and years and years, but they need to start looking, at something to take them up a step. I'm not saying they got to go up, to 150% up. No, but every, few months they need to go up a little bit. I think their music is great. Mikey Ruckus does a great job with the music. I don't think the lighting's too bad. They do smaller arenas and things like that, but I think you've got to get that bigger feel. They've got to start getting that bigger feel. You have the great energy from the audience. I think you need to start getting that feel now that your product is bigger. You have to start showing that your product is bigger, and that'll get sponsors. Okay. That's one of the other things that I used to hate WWE pay-per-views, because it was always sponsored by something. It's like, what was it? They always had like some movie that was coming out as a sponsor, or hell, I think the Planner's Peanut had sponsors. Every time was presented by Snickers or something like that. But now when I look back at it, that just makes it, it just gives it a bigger feel. Whenever you say something is presented by something, you start getting that little bit bigger feel. Starts making it feel something, and that's something I think that Tony Khan and AEW kind of needs to look at now, is trying to take that step now. And how do I make it feel bigger? The presentation. How do I make that presentation seem like it's a can't miss? You got the Young Bucks, they do a thing, the streamers fly in the air, they drop the money down. Jade Cargill, I like her entrance. You have some of those there. But now I think you need to start taking it up a notch, and maybe it's camera angles. It might be something as simple as a camera angle different. I always love Randy Orton, when he's up on that top turnbuckle and he's doing his little, that the arms in the air, they swing that one camera, the swinging camera always goes in front of him. I'm saying, like, just little things like that. That presentation just makes the product feel more important. I get it. I get that WWE's been doing this for a long time. Their production, they probably got a template of everything that they do. You're not going to get there. And I agree with, back in the day, what Paul Heyman said. You accentuate your positives and you hide your negatives. But you still have to work on your negatives. They can't just keep hitting, because if you don't start building them up, your product's always going to feel a little bit behind. And I think right now, not from a fan standpoint, and sure as hell not from a talent standpoint, am I saying this, but when you watch a WWE show, the production, the brightness, everything just seems bigger than what you just watched tonight. AEW feels like it's in a smaller, it goes back to the NWA days to me. And by that, I mean, they went to these smaller arenas. The lighting used to only be above the ring, which AEW doesn't do that. But it's got to generate a feel that this is important for me to tune in. Talent-wise, match-wise, angle-wise, creative, AEW's on point with that right now. They got to keep on point with that. And it'll be interesting to see as contracts start coming up, what they have to do, what decisions need to be made. But right now, with everything going on, to me, their storytelling and everything right now has been pretty damn good. Now it's taking that step up for presentation. It's cool when you write the little things on there. You say, Hangman hasn't won a whatever, and they used to do all that when he came out to the thing. But now it's time to make some changes. Different camera angles. Maybe, when, I'm trying to think right now who I can think of here. Andrade today, when he came out, they go to the empty, his music's playing. It's the empty corridor that they come out of. Why do we have to watch that corridor? Why can't you wait, get him set up to wherever he's going to be at, and then pan up as he's standing there? Just little things like that. You start making it seem more, larger than life. That's what, Vince used to do, stupid things with camera angles to make guys seem bigger, larger than they really were. And that's what makes products sell. Tony says that Cody entrance was nice. I believe he's going to get a big push, not a championship push though. Yeah, I agree with that. I am interested to see, and I talked about this before, is what do they do now with Roman? I mean, is he a champion for both promotions? And if he is, that's going to kind of put a hog tie on the championship up top, unless what you do is you set up a contender from Raw and a contender from SmackDown. You do a triple threat and one of them beat each other and you keep Roman out. So then Roman has to drop the belt. But Roman's on fire right now. So I agree. I don't think a championship push is there unless they make a new title, which you never know. Because again, as I said, there was a lot going into behind the scenes that NBC Universal, which is USA Network, wants a champion on their show, which is Raw, and Fox wants a champion on their show, which is SmackDown. Both of them want a heavyweight champion on their show. Now you've combined the two. Does Roman do both shows, or do you bring out a new title? If you do, then you might see Cody kind of get that push up a little bit. And it'd be very interesting to see how they work that out. So something else to follow as the weeks go by here. Tony says WWE production value has been top notch. I remember I was at Raw at the old AAA, and Kane's entrance really made me jump out of my seat, caught me by surprise. Yeah, I mean, the fire from the and the other little things they used to do. They used to lower the AC when the Undertaker. You would feel the chill when little things, man. I mean, it's amazing you know, that, you know, the lights go out and you know it's the Undertaker, but then all of a sudden you feel that chill too, right? They I don't know if they jack up the AC or what they end up doing there, but just that feel. And then, as you said, with Kane, the pyro, man, if you're anywhere around the ringside area, oh, talking about a sunburn, that stuff hits, and it's a big boom. And then it's the fire. It's little things, but again, WWE understands that because I believe, you know, again, they finally got it to where they understood, okay, you're doing wrestling over here, WCW. Well, then you know what we're going to start doing? We're going to do more entertainment. We're going to keep wrestling, but we're also going to do the entertainment part of it, which keeps people, you know, kind of look. All of us love wrestling. Okay, there's certain guys that can do things that are phenomenal. There's some guys you do stuff and you look at and you're like, how the hell is he there? There's some guys you look at and you're like, how is that guy not being pushed to the moon? Everybody's got their own taste in pro wrestling, but when you sit there and you look at, you know, what WWE does, they take guys, and again, I don't know that it's right, but Vince will always push your bigger guys, and he always gets, you know, the legacy guys. However you want to say it, the legacy guys, and by legacy guys, I mean, you know, your second, third, fourth generation wrestlers. Look at how many of them are in WWE. Trying to think right now, right off the top of my head, AEW. Who do they have over there now that's like a second or third generation wrestler? Brian Pillman Jr. And help me out on the chat there if you can. Second, third generation wrestlers, most of them end up going to WWE because that they everybody understands, and I mean this is no disrespect to AEW. A lot of people's goal is to get to WWE. It's not to get to AEW. It's to get to WWE. You're Dustin Rhodes. Thank you so much, Tony. Good call there. Wow. Wasn't even thinking of that. I was like thinking of the younger guys. Forgot about Dustin. Good calls of Tony there. Wow. Oh, Dustin probably nailed me for that one. I have to give AEW credit. Malachi Black's entrance. They need to use that as an example. Yeah. No, I mean, that's one of those. And I'm not saying everybody deserves. That's another thing that I think has gotten a little bit too much in pro wrestling. Everybody doesn't have to have, you know, the long drawn out entrance. I mean, look, it's just music played in the ring like Serena Deeb. I love her entrance. She just gets there, she gets to the ring, she's ready to go. Sometimes that's also telling a story. I'm just coming here to kick ass. That's also a part of it. But again, Malachi Black, you know, the light goes off. They've got, you know, the light, then he comes on and it starts coming up. And there they are right there. He's sitting there with the antlers and everything else there. It's things like that. Samoa Joe, I think his entrance is great. You know, the one thing I think they need to stop doing, though, is panning to the entranceway before they're coming out. I mean, there's got to be a better cue or something there. When you see the empty stage and then they come walking out, I mean, you don't have the big Tron up there like WWE does that you see the bright lights and the things like that. You're just seeing the AEW symbol there, and then all of a sudden they're coming out of the side there. Get a little bit, you know, do a little bit more on the crowd or something at that point, or go to the table with Tony and them, and then when they come out, then you can shoot it over to you know, the talent as they come out, and then walk them. You know, you can take the camera and have them walk down to the thing. It's just, to me, it's little things like that AEW still lacks at times. The one thing I love about AEW, though, with their camera angles is they don't do 60,000 million cuts. Every time a punch is thrown, they're not cutting, which I can't stand with WWE that they do. I love that AEW lets the action unfold and you can tell a story instead of every kick. It's a different damn camera angle and everything there. It about drives me crazy. And I can only imagine somebody that has, you know, disability where it's like the light changing real quick and things like that, because that drives me crazy watching a WWE match and there's a punch and it's like cut, punch, cut, punch, cut, punch, cut, punch, cut, and it just drives me crazy. So that I do like the fact that in the ring, I think AEW does a great job of catching the action. Are there still some times where they miss something here and there? Yes, but they also don't have, what WWE I think has what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, almost probably 9 to 10 cameras going at a time, depending on where the setup is. I know at AAA they had 8 the last time we were there. You got the hard camera, you've got the one camera that swings through the crowd, you've got two to three on the ring area, you got one designated just for the table, and then you've got 2 more throughout the crowd that come through and pick out the crowd. They try to find the people that are crying or whatever when something happens. So you have all that stuff there. Steve says, on a similar note, I wish they'd stop slapping their thigh on every kick. Oh, come on, man. That's pro wrestling, buddy. It's just like the slap, man. When yeah. Come on. Let me slap you. Or when they punch you got the punches. All that stuff. No, but it does get a little bit carried away when all they're doing is or you just do like Samoa Joe and just knock the shit out of them. That job he did with the acclaimed Caster. He took on Caster tonight. And when he chopped him in the back, man, I think his soul just left his body on that one. No, but that is one of the things too, is that on a funny note of that, Vince McMahon actually banned that from the I guess a move set or however you want to call it. Like he said, it is banned. I don't want to see anybody, slapping their thigh or anything when they're doing the kicks. That was actually, it was a memo was sent out banning the slapping of the thighs, which didn't last too long because I see it almost every other day, every other show. They're still doing it, but it was interesting to see how, carried away it got. And then it's even worse when it was in NXT and I can't remember who it was. Somebody threw a kick and wasn't even close, but the sound, because they slapped their thigh so hard, it echoed and it sounded like he killed the kid and he missed the kick. He physically missed the kick and it just sounded like he hit the thing. Did you notice how red Ronda's chest was after her match Charlotte? Yeah. Well, Charlotte, I mean, again, when you do the chops, there's not a lot of, I mean, you can, cup your hand, but at that point in that WrestleMania, you're laying it all on the line. I used to, dude, I think one of the best ones was, I believe it was Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair, when Steamboat's chest was physically, I mean, like you could see the blood trickling down from the chops from Ric Flair when they were doing their feud in the early WCW days, when Ricky Steamboat was doing it was the party animal Ric Flair, 4 Horsemen against the outstanding husband and father Ricky Steamboat, when they were doing that feud, and then it ended up leading into Terry Funk and Ric Flair. But man, there was this one match, Ricky Steamboat's chest, literally the blood was trickling down because it had been chopped so damn much by Flair in the match. And it's one of those things, man. I mean, there's, and I know, a lot of people say, oh, wrestling, they use the F word, fake and all that stuff. It's, if you went to a training session and understood and saw the training that goes into, what goes down in a wrestling match, it's not for everybody, man. It's not for everybody. We had guys that came in and they look like $1 million, and you're like, oh, this guy's going to be, gone in a week. And then, the basic move is a back bump. You have to physically just kick your feet off from underneath you and land flat on your back. Seems simple enough, right? You'll be amazed at how many people just can't do it, man, because it's not natural. You don't naturally just say, "Hey, let me just fall on my back and on concrete or anything else," you know? Yeah, no, Steve, exactly. That's why I say I was like, if you want to call it, scripted, choreographed, even it's not even choreographed to a point. It's like a dance. It's like a physical dance that you have to do with whoever you're in the ring with. But it was amazing how many people just can't get the basics. And that's just kicking your feet up and taking a back bump and tucking your chin. There was guys that were, getting concussions just because, yeah, there you go. It's scripted, predetermined. Yep, yep. No, 100%. I can go with all that stuff. That's fine. It's when they use, the fake and all that stuff that gets to me, man, because there is, Tony 100% asked Stone Cold. Look at their neck injuries, man. They did it for so long and at such high levels. And some of these guys, I mean, look at Stone Cold. I mean, yeah, he had a meteoric rise once, he got the WWE and he got rid of the ringmaster and there. But man, could you imagine if he was in WWE longer or WWF longer than what he was? Could you imagine how big he would have been? Look how long it took him to get to that point. I mean, it's just like amazing to me. Yeah, man. Yeah, no. But again, that's one of those things where kind of an unspoken thing was, I believe, and this is totally for me, and is when Sami Zayn took the body slam from Wee Man took the kick in return from Sami Zayn. That was the receipt. Sammy said, "I'll let you body slam me, but you're going to catch a foot to the face." And that's what that match needed so much of that. And and as I said, a couple days ago, I said it was either going to be very entertaining or very bad. And fortunately, it was very entertaining. And then you look at, as you're talking about Stone Cold and everything, the neck injuries, man. Because why? Because you have to hold your neck. You're tucking your chin. And as these guys, I mean, look, man, I wrestled at about 260, 280 was probably my highest weight. You got these guys wrestling at 280 their whole careers, man. Some of those guys. I mean, I could not imagine like being like the size of Lesnar and bumping and just the grind it takes on your neck. And again, I get it. They're built a lot differently than me. But even then, I mean, working out every day at that point and doing the weights and everything else like that, it still took a toll on me. I mean, my knees are shot, my hips. I mean, when I wake up in the morning, it's and I nowhere near to as much wrestling as these guys did. So I can only imagine how some of these guys are feeling after some of these train wrecks. Again, though, they do have great doctors. They have a lot of great, the massage therapists and some of the, rehab therapists and the machines they use at the PC and they use, a lot of them get access when they go to some of these, when they work out at the buildings, the State Farm Arena and some of these other buildings where, pro teams are at, they have access to some of that equipment with the medical staff. So yeah, they get taken care of. But again, you hop in a car, you drive 5 hours to your next show or the next town, you sleep for a little bit, then you get up, you work out, and then you're back into doing it again. Yeah, herniated disc, yeah, 100%. That's usually back issues and back, hip, and probably neck injuries are probably your most, and shoulders, depending on, again, like Hulk Hogan, he used to do the leg drop. That will mess up your back, man. It's amazing. Yeah, I took a lot of, especially my knees. My knees were pretty much pretty bad from that because again, you're running and your military boots and everything else. Everything you're doing is there's not a lot of comfort in the military, and so yeah, Mick Foley. I mean, but also some of those guys, man, it becomes like, also I think, my pain tolerance is probably a little bit higher than some just because I'm so used to this. It becomes, I guess, a way. It becomes a way of life, man, for some of these guys, dude. It's not even pain anymore. It's just like, okay, it's another day. It's another normal day, I mean, those guys, you get to the arena to stretch out an hour before whatever you're supposed to do because it's going to take you an hour to put on your boots or whatever else, I mean, I've seen guys that had to have, former, you know, you know, uh, people that were like WWE, WCW stars that would have to have people help them lace up their boots, man. Then they'd get in the ring and you'd never know anything different. It's amazing to me. You see, I mean, I watched, and this was long ago. There was an injury with Ric Flair. Um, this was when I was younger, and I remember he got to the. I want to say it was at um, Fort Lauderdale Yankee Stadium over where Lockhart is. And it was just a normal card, a basic, like a live show that they were doing. And when he got there, he was in a wheelchair. Not that he was to the wheelchair, but he was having problems. I think a back injury or something at that point. And then Manny came out and he 45-minute match, and then at the end of the night, they're wheeling him back to the car, in the chair and stuff. Man, it becomes you do, especially now, not as much as it was back in those days. But in those days, it wasn't getting hurt. You had to figure out how to wrestle through the being hurt. I mean, if you were hurt and you weren't wrestling, is because you probably weren't walking or something at that point, because that was the food. That was your money. That's how you got paid. Nowadays, it's guaranteed money. You're guaranteed contracts. So ultimately, you're going to get paid, and rightfully so, man, for what these guys put their bodies through and what these companies are making now. Again, remember back in the day, the house was broken down in a percentage where I believe it was the company got a certain percentage and everything else was broken among the guys on the card. If you're in the main event, you got paid more. Steve said the chair shots for, yeah, no, that was uncalled for, man. That was. And again, I don't know the whole story. I know what I've seen on documentaries and things like that. He was handcuffed and then he was getting hit with the chair. And then remember the whole thing behind that was that Mick Foley never said I quit. It was like a PA ended up saying the I quit because basically the Rocket hit him so many damn times with the thing. He was legit busted open. He was bleeding and kids were watching it and everything else. It was one of those things where, look, you can do whatever for the show. I remember, even when you talk about Mick Foley, I mean, hell, he wanted to do the Hell in the Cell. And Undertaker was like, what are you, freaking crazy? He's like, you want me to what? Throw you off the cage. And man, yeah, Tony, yep. Yeah, it was beyond the mat. And then Mick Foley, if you ever get to see any of his stuff, he'll talk about it. He openly talks about it in a lot of things. And I know some people were hurt that and I, what, honestly, during the Hall of Fame speech, but the Undertaker did not thank Mick Foley. Mick Foley was not brought up at all in the Hall of Fame speech by the Undertaker. I think Vince McMahon did mention him as one of the people that he had beaten. Yeah. And Steve, you're right. They took the kids away from the ringside area. Dewey was the one that was crying and screaming and everything else. And then Foley came back through afterwards. And Foley's always a consummate professional, man. He's never gonna. Everything I've seen, I don't think he's ever lost his temper when he's legit had a few opportunities when his ear got ripped off. He got stuck between the ropes it was cable ropes. WWE, I don't know if you know, they use nylon ropes. It's really rope. It's physical, like rope. Whereas WCW used cable with like a hose over it. Um, Mick Foley used to do the spot where he get his head stuck in the ring ropes, and they did it overseas, and his ear got ripped off by the metal rope, and the ref actually got it and saved it. I think it was a match with Vader actually too. It was in a feud with Vader, but man, Foley is literally giving his body to pro wrestling. And you're right, Steve. He's just not well in the head. But again, that's what got him to the point, though. Look, that's what he had to do to, the Cactus Jack and all that. That was, I mean, hell, him and Terry Funk. Go look at exploding barbed wire matches, not the Moxley Omega one. Don't go look at that one, but go back. FMW Frontier, I think it's Frontier Martial Arts Wrestling. Back in the day when they were starting, there was some crazy ass. I mean, there's barbed wire and exploding barbed wire matches. They would hit the thing and stuff would blow up. And go back and look at that stuff, and you'll see some crazy ass stuff from Mick Foley and Terry Funk and all those guys. Man, there's too many to name there, but man, that was some crazy ass shit there. That was crazy. When you take a look at what they put their bodies through. I mean, hell, even was it here when it got yeah, no, it's all fake. Yeah, this stuff doesn't hurt, man. The barbed wire doesn't hurt. What are you talking about? Like Britt Baker actually posted a one because somebody was like, "Oh, you guys cut all the thumbtacks, so it didn't hurt when you went in there." And then she took her, her hand, and you can see all the tacks laying in them. I remember, we did the Christmas tree match, and I took a bump off the ladder, a power bomb. They picked me up. I was already on the ladder, so they basically got me and put me in thumbtacks, and like didn't hurt, didn't feel it there. Then afterwards, you feel like a pincushion when they're getting pulled out of you, though. And probably some of the once the oh damn, I want to say motivation, but that's not it. Once all your oh man, I'm drawing a blank on the word now. But once all that goes out of your body and it's just you there and they're pulling thumbtacks out of your back, oh, it's not so fun then. You start double thinking, why did I do that? But when you look at what they did, I can only imagine. I mean, hell, there's that one Terry Funk when he gets his hair, or no, it's Sabu. He gets his hair stuck in the barbed wire. They have to stop them. They have to physically stop the match. No winner. Adrenaline. Derek, you're the man. Derek Bonebreak. I like the last name. It almost sounds like a wrestling name. Derek Bonebreak. Adrenaline. Thank you. I am not a wordsmith. I'm lucky I remember my name every day. But it was Sabu, and I believe it was Terry Funk too. I believe it was when they were going with the ECW title. They had to actually stop the match because they were stuck in the barbed wire. They had to come out and cut the barbed wire and all that stuff, man. Dudes were just, you give up your body, man. You give up your body. All right, I want to thank everybody that's been in the chat. Derek there, especially for the adrenaline. Steve, Boss B, Tony, everybody that was in on the chat today. If you reached out on the Yahoo Mail, I'll get back to you as soon as the show ends. I want to thank everybody coming back here. Back Friday night, talk a little SmackDown, a little more wrestling. We'll see any more injury updates. Also, Nash Carter was released from WWE. There were some things going on behind the scenes with him, and apparently, hopefully they did their homework and found out or did their research and whatever, but he was released today. He had just won the NXT tag team titles. He's part of MSK, but he was released today through some things outside of the thing. Real name, love the show, came from Big O and stayed for the awesome rest. Oh, awesome, man. Awesome, Derek. Good deal, man. That's a hell of a name. I like that. But you guys have a good night. We'll talk more about that and a whole lot more Friday night, 10 o'clock. We'll be here after SmackDown. We'll watch some Rampage together. And not sure if there's any Heat or Panthers action, if that's going on as well. And then the Marlins also. The Marlins. That will be opening day for them. They're in San Francisco. So we'll do that, wrestling, and a whole lot more, as always, from the great Gordon Soley. So long from the Sunshine State.
If you're a Miami sports fan, then there's only one store to go to, and that's Caneswear at Miami Fanwear in Davie. They're your one-stop shop for all your inner Miami CF, Canes, Dolphins, Panthers, and Marlins merchandise. They have hats, t-shirts,